because I could have broken this story. I could have said Coach K is retiring a month ago, and I could have said I have it on good authority. I chose, for the first time ever in my career, to not go with the story, which turned out to be
not to gossip.
Not to gossip. Not to, I never said
spread innuendo.
Didn't say it to a soul. Didn't even say it privately.
No, and what a time it would have been too, because we would have mocked you.
Of course,
unmercifully.
Of course,
people would have called in. They'd have mocked you.
Of course,
and then right now you would be standing. You'd be standing here saying, "Look."
Yeah.
Look at me. Look what I did. I broke it.
Not only that, I would have broken the news. CNN would have called me. ESPN would have called me and said, a local radio DJ reports that he has it on good authority that Mike Krzyzewski is going to retire.
Well, if I may,
please.
Just for a moment.
Please.
Not to interrupt your flow. What prevented your quote-unquote source from going public with the intel?
From breaking it. He was too scared. He told me, I'm too scared. I'm peeing my pants over this thing. You can go with it.
We have two world-class cowards.
Well, I think we already knew that, but yes. Yes. Two things kept me from going with it.
One.
Fear, cowardice, which I have. Two, mistrust of the source.
Well, he's led you astray before, you've said.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, what would you say the source's percentage is on being right?
20%. I say one out of five.
So
one out of five.
Odds are against.
That's right. I say odds were against. But, I mean, it made sense because the man is almost 75 years old. He's been doing it for 40 years or whatever. I think college basketball has changed a lot, obviously, in the last 10 to 20 years. I think that's one of the reasons Roy Williams retired.
And they are old. I mean,
they're old.
These are older men.
That's right.
I keep seeing the word, which I've seen a lot lately, the words transfer portal thrown around as reasons.
Doubt. I think more so for Williams than Krzyzewski. Williams is about 4 or 5 years younger. I think he could have coached or wanted to coach another 4 or 5 years, but because there's such a changing landscape, transfer portal, all those things, I think he's like, okay. And he said in his press conference, I can't get through to these players anymore.
No.
He said, this year I didn't get through to them.
Well, I'll tell you, this year is the first year the transfer portal is you don't have to sit out.
Right.
3,000 athletes, college athletes, have entered the transfer portal. 3,000.
I think that was a part of it for Roy Williams. For Krzyzewski, I think it was more like it's time. You know, I've been here for so many years. What is he? By the time he's done, he will have been there 41 years, something like that. They hired him. I told a dear friend yesterday, and I want to speak on Mike Krzyzewski for a minute. They hired him when I was 9 years old. Okay, I remember the introductory press conference. We had 3 channels in my house. We didn't have cable TV. My father is an enormous Duke fan. I was a huge North Carolina fan because my mother liked North Carolina. I'm a mama's boy. Full disclosure. All right. I followed my mother.
That's not news.
That is.
No.
We're not breaking news here. Mike Krzyzewski came on, walked up to the podium.
Did you hold your little 9-year-old finger up?
I sure did. Even at that time, I had a lot of expertise on sports.
Even then?
Even then. Probably more so than on ACC basketball, more than I do today, because I followed it religiously. I knew every player, every coach, all the stats, everything. There were only 8 or 9 teams in the ACC at that time. Now there are 16. Yesterday I saw a list of the coaches. I was like, I don't know who that guy is. They listed him by age. You know,
yeah, and you're like, who's that?
Who's that? By the time it got to the bottom, past Tony Bennett at Virginia, I was like, I don't know who that guy is. Like Boston College, I couldn't tell you who's.
Nope.
I have no idea. I know the Q's because of Boheme. Of course, I know Kay. I know who Carolina just hired.
He may be the next big name out the door. With his
he's got to be.
Has to be. When Coach K approached that podium on local TV in 1980, when I was 9 years old, he gave his speech. I turned to my father and I said, he'll be there 2 years.
Talk to me on my 11th birthday.
I hope they didn't throw away all the other resumes. I have it on good authority.
I said 2 years.
Was
2
that
years.
the earliest Kelly curse?
There's a kid down the street. He picks his nose on the bus and eats boogers. But he told me 2 years tops.
That was my gut.
Yeah.
That was my sources. I saw Coach K. I saw his face, and I said,
How he spells his name.
This guy?
I'm not even bothered learning how to spell his name.
Why would I? And I said, 2. I turned to my father, I said, 2 years.
You back to loser, Pop.
Yep. And
Again.
My father said, that is a disappointment. He looked at him and went, what a disappointment. Because Duke had been in the NCAA championship game in 1978, only a couple of years earlier, by the coach named Bill Foster. I said, this guy is not.
He's no Bill Foster.
He's not going to make it. He's not going to make it. Now, He was hired when I'm 9. He's going to walk away when I'm 51. That's how long.
I'd say you were right.
Thank you. I said his time there is limited. This is not going to happen. I'll tell you what I wish. I told Chris Demm this. I wish Roy Williams had made the announcement and then said, I'm going to coach another year too. Can you imagine the last game in Cameron between those two?
Absolutely.
Would have been epic.
It would have been epic. I wish Roy
Every
Williams.
sports camera in the world would have been.
Oh, yeah.
The ticket prices would probably be $5,000
easily.
You know, and it should be in Cameron Indoor Stadium, and those two should go at it for the final time. That would have been incredible.
Unreal.
Yeah. But Roy robbed us of that.
Said, I need golf.
He said, yes, that's right. Somebody, we caught up with Roy Williams on the 10th tee of a golf course yesterday.
The Corn Ferry Tours in town.
He just made the turn.
He's playing the Pro-Am. I'm serious. I just saw, I was like, where they get him? They run up to him on a random golf course and ask him. They're like, no, he's playing the Pro-Am for the Corn Ferry Tour. What the hell is that?
I have it on good authority that he plays Pro-Ams. I didn't want to go with it, but he plays Pro-Ams quite often. They caught him on 10T.
I think, it's everybody knows it's coming, but Mike's been fantastic for the game of basketball. He's been fantastic for college basketball, been fantastic for the ACC, the greatest rivalry in sports, Duke, North Carolina basketball. He's been a good friend. He's been a guy I've respected a great deal. He made everybody bring their A game for years and years and years.
There you have it. What more can you say about that? I'll tell you this, too. I was stunned that Duke went ahead and made the announcement of who their next coach would be. Immediately I said, I have it on good authority. It's Brad Stevens.
I went with it.
Just seconds after the news broke.
Tweeted it, texted it, told everybody. It's Brad Stevens. I said, look, when you've been around the game as long as I have, you know there are no coincidences. Brad Stevens steps down from coaching the Celtics. He's going to do head of basketball operations in Boston for 1 year. He'll make the transfer to Duke nicely. Moments after I tweeted it, Duke announced John Shire would be
slide over from his assistant
head
coach.
And oddly enough, it also came out that Brad Stevens is so sick of coaching that he has the shakes, and that's why he's going to the front office.
Guy's got the shakes. Cannot coach anymore. I thought for sure he'd be wearing Duke blue.
Me too.
In a year. I was stunned.
I think there's probably a lot of stunned former coaches of Duke.
Yeah.
I did read Duke did do a search and talk to guys like Tommy Amaker.
Yeah.
And a few other ex-Duke coaches.
Was it always going to stay in the, like with North Carolina, it always stays in the family. In the family.
I don't
is
know.
Duke doing that too?
They just said that they talked to other former Duke players who are now coaches.
There are a bunch of them.
Well, I mean,
Yes, a bunch.
Well, that's what they were like. Did anyone talk to Johnny Dawkins? Did anyone talk to Snyder? Did anyone,
But I think that's always a mistake. I always think that I'm never about promoting from within. I'm never about going to the most loyal. I always think you guys cast a wider net than that. I mean, these are the two premier college basketball jobs, period. As long as like Kentucky and Kansas, and maybe UCLA. But why do you always limit yourself to just a few candidates?
I read that Shire shored himself up with his recruiting the past couple years. He got Jason Tatum. He got Zion.
Okay.
So, and I always thought it was going to be Jeff Capel because he was a great recruiter. Not necessarily the best coach.
But why isn't it Brad Stevens?
I don't know.
Why aren't these big,
you.
huge names? I never understand. It's like North Carolina settled on Hubert Davis. I never understand why they don't go outside and reach for the huge names, but they're not doing it. They don't do it.
It's a complicated job. I mean, it's not what it was. I mean, they're not dictators anymore. There's no more Bobby Knights in the job. I mean, you can't just boss around these players.
But Brad Stevens did a phenomenal job as recently as 5 or 10 years ago, and coaching at Butler. He gets a great.
True, but the game has changed. I mean, as you guys know,
why not reach out to the Virginia coach? He's a great coach. I think he would at least look at Duke. Why not reach out to the Gonzaga coach, who's doing a perfect job at Gonzaga? This is Duke. This is the #1 job in America, and North Carolina's not far behind. And I just never get why they just go. I guess it's probably the recruiting thing, like you just said. And they're loyal. They're loyal to their guys. So that's what they're doing. But will they be? I mean, to me, the rivalry now, it's lost something. Those two coaches are huge.
Well, I'm with you. I was like, oh, Brad Stevens would be great.
Of course, and the timing was perfect.
But then yesterday I see him getting slammed. They're like, yeah, he should have never been the Celtics coach. He was, handed great teams by Ainge, and he's not that great of a coach. And all, he's coming off 1 year at Butler.
But also NBA coaching is different than college coaching.
Absolutely.
He was phenomenal at Butler, a tiny school at Butler. Now, if he was still at Butler, they may hire him at this point. They went with John Shire, who's never coached a game. They went with Hubert Davis at North Carolina, who's never coached a game. I'll speak of this again.
You will.
Every hour. Wow. Every hour, I'll give my thoughts. Takes. I'll give my thoughts on Duke's Mike Krzyzewski.
Let's wait for Dave to get here.
Exactly. That'll be.
Let's get Dave Aiken's take.
Yeah. That'll be the next. And I do think that the rivalry now and the game has just lost two huge names now. Huge. The biggest. And I'll say this, too. I told Chris Demm this. I want to speak on this. I think Mike Krzyzewski can be argued as the greatest coach of any sport all time, pro or college. I don't know that you'd say with any assurances that, yes, he's the best ever at anything, but I think you can put him with names like Belichick, Saban, Wooden, Krzyzewski. I mean, if you did a Mount Rushmore of the greatest coaches of anything all time, that may be my 4 right there. I mean, could you come up with any? He's got to be on it. I think he's got to be on it. To win 5 championships in the time that he coached is as impressive as Wooden winning 10 in the time that he coached, in my mind. Agreed?
I'm not sure. I don't know how you compare the eras. I mean,
almost impossible.
Yeah.
But I mean, Wooden won 10, but it was if you win the Pac-10, you're in. You're in the tournament. You're in, and it's like fewer teams in it. I think it's much harder to win the NCAA championship now. So I would give, and Krzyzewski's had to coach through all those eras of now the one and dones. I mean, for 15 years, it's been one and dones or right from high school, and he's managed that pretty darn well. I mean, what else can you say? He's won more games. He's won the most games of anybody all time. There's not much more that can be said about that. I'll speak to it every hour.
Good.
Every hour, I'll say what I feel.
A fresh audience gets to hear these hot takes.
What people don't know, this is radio.
Yeah, there's turnover.
The audience turns over. We have P1s that listen all 4 hours. Get ready for my takes every hour.
Will it be identical takes?
Unless I think of something new. And I've really shot my wad here. I wasn't planning on doing that. I said to myself and to a dear colleague who gave me that information, I said, I'm just going to eke this out just a little bit at a time. Yeah. But once I got going, it was like, blah, 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 blah. I had to just work.
Couldn't hold it in.
I couldn't hold it in. I could not hold it in. You're a Duke fan. Are you? What are you feeling?
I'm not surprised.
Well, 75
years old. I am surprised at the coaching choice.
Yes.
I will say that.
Well, I'm surprised it was so quick, too. I mean,
you
think it'd be a few weeks.
And I'll tell you, I don't want to give your source too much credit, but he's absolutely right about the marketing part.
Oh, yeah.
Because yesterday, once it was officially announced, Duke's Twitter, Instagram, they went on a media frenzy of, pictures of Coach K, things, the final season, this and that. It's clear this has been being set up for a month.
And I think Roy Williams was much more of a surprise.
Absolutely.
I think he said a couple of days before, I'm going to retire, and they said, well, give us a couple of days to get together.
Duke found a picture of John Shire, a young John Shire with Coach K, where it was a picture of the two of them, and Coach K had written on it, stick to your dreams, John. I mean, they went on a full marketing blitz.
I was told this was coming. I held it.
And man, he was so right about the marketing part, too.
Sat on it. It's been in my mind.
As we should point out, as did the source.
Correct.
Yeah.
Who had an outlet and did nothing.
Correct. He has an outlet also. He has his own radio show. We got together. He said, I'm too scared.
It's a privilege to work with you.
Yeah.
With both of you.